Hello and welcome to World News on the Hour here on TVP World with me, Ashim Kumar. Local elections will be held in 2 municipalities in Serbia on Sunday. This comes as students across the country have been holding protests since November of last year, both in Serbia and beyond its borders. 2 municipalities, Košierić and Zaječar, located on separate sides of the country, could play a decisive role in determining the direction of the protest movement. These local votes are the first electoral test for the ruling party since the student protests began. Disturbing incidents have already been reported, including an attack on an opposition activist and another on a cameraman. These incidents have further escalated the already high tensions between the protesting students and the ruling Serbian Progressive Party, or SNS. The students are protesting against widespread corruption, nepotism and mismanagement, and were triggered by a collapse of an outdoor canopy at a recently renovated railway station in the town of Novi Sad that resulted in the death of 16 people. We'll discuss the topic of Serbian local elections and the political situation in the country with Natasha Vučković, Director of Center for Democracy Foundation, right after the news bulletin. So stay tuned. Reports from Russia say that a chemical plant in the Tula region was targeted in a drone attack. This is the second time the plant has been hit. The Azot plant reportedly caught fire overnight. Footage found on social media shows the site being hit, followed by a large fire with plumes of thick smoke billowing into the sky. 2 people were reportedly injured in the attack. A similar attack was carried out on the site at the end of May. This is a developing story, and we will be keeping you informed. The Ukrainian city of Kharkiv suffered 2 separate Russian attacks on Saturday, with one of them being the largest Russian assault since the outbreak of the war. At least 3 people have been killed and over 40 wounded after a barrage of drones, guided bombs and missiles hit the city.
She was turned over and ended up under a concrete slab and under the bed. She could only stretch her arm out like that and begged to be taken out. I couldn't. The only thing I could do was to put out the fire so that she wouldn't suffocate. I was putting out the fire, but it was flaring up, and the apartment above was burning. In the house, right where this young man was lying, he was 32 years old. I don't think he even realized what hit him. He died immediately. His mother was dug up, lifted from the rubble, and his father, I understand that he almost got out on his own, but it's also a stressful situation. He's also in the hospital. And the niece, I understand that she has a concussion and stress, shock.
Well, here is the damage. There are no windows, no doors, no roof. There is nothing anywhere. You see, everything is destroyed. The neighbor's house fell here. We are helping each other. The neighbors have come. It's not very nice.
Following the extensive attacks on Kharkiv, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky called for action against Russia's aggression.
Dozens of people have been injured over the past day. Unfortunately, there are some dead. My condolences to their families and friends. And no matter what anyone says, these are not retaliatory Russian strikes, but destructive. The complete destruction of life, that's what they want. And in absolutely all towns and villages in the occupied territory, you can really see what Russia's arrival means. The only thing the occupiers care about is military infrastructure and their ability to take everything valuable out of Ukraine.
According to his chief of staff, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky is still looking to meet with Donald Trump on the sidelines of the upcoming G7 summit in Canada in mid-June. The Ukrainian official explained that the Ukrainian delegation's visit to the US earlier this week served as a step in preparations towards organizing a meeting between the two heads of state. Yermak further expressed hope the US lawmakers will green-light devastating sanctions on Russia and its energy customers, a bipartisan bill originally proposed by Republican Senator Lindsey Graham. The anticipated meeting between Trump and Zelensky will be their second face-to-face encounter since their high-profile row in the US President's Oval Office in late February and a 15-minute talk on the sidelines of Pope Francis' funeral in late April. After President Zelensky has been invited to attend the NATO summit in The Hague on June 24th to 26th, it will now be crucial for him to bring some good news to the gathering. CO at Article 7 Intelligence for Democrats, Garvan Walsh, told TVP World.
It would be great to see him there. It would be an important symbol to say that Ukraine is very much part of the Western and European family. Obviously, the question here is, if he is to attend, he needs to be able to announce something positive, and then we'll have to see whether the Americans in particular can be persuaded to give him enough of a win to make attending the summit worthwhile.
Maybe President Trump forgot who started this war, said Alexei Goncharenko, a Ukrainian member of parliament, on a recent interview with TVP World. Commenting on US President Donald Trump's latest remarks on Russian President Vladimir Putin and Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky being similar to children fighting on a playground.
All recent comments of President Trump, they are making in some way, equal Ukrainian and Russian position. And I don't know, maybe President Trump forgot who started this war. That Russia brutally violated international law, invaded independent country, which independence and borders recognized many times. And now he is saying, oh, Russia has the right to this, oh, I understand Russia about that. It's quite strange. I mean, I understand that President Trump wants to be a negotiator, and as a negotiator, maybe he tries to be good with both sides. But it looks like he's quite tough about Ukraine, and he's very kind about Russia. And unfortunately, we see that after each conversation with Trump, Putin feels himself emboldened.
The Finnish Prime Minister has announced the country is on track to increase its defence spending to 5% of GDP by 2032. This increase will reportedly be achieved without the need to raise taxes. Finland wants to introduce reforms aiming to stimulate the economic growth, which will in turn provide more resources for the planned defence spending increase. This move comes as European countries and NATO member states have been investing work and resources into their defence efforts, an agenda heavily pushed by the United States as the European continent faces continued threats from Russia. Okay. Is a large-scale United Arab Emirates real estate development going to undermine Montenegro's EU accession bid? According to the EU's Commissioner for Enlargement, this multi-billion euro investment could have repercussions, potentially leading to the destruction of cultural and natural heritage and the displacement of minorities.
The Montenegrin parliament and its prime minister just ratified a tourism and real estate cooperation agreement with the United Arab Emirates for a second time after President Jakov Milatovic refused to sign the agreement amid concerns that the document could violate national laws. Montenegro's reputation as one of the EU's most promising candidate countries.
It is inspiring to see how Montenegro has advanced on its European path.
May now be in danger. The proposed 35 billion euro investment deal consists of the development of a luxury resort by an Emirati investor along one of Europe's longest sand beaches located in Montenegro's seaside city of Ulcinj. The region is home to a large ethnic Albanian community and a vital ecologic zone, home to over half of Montenegro's migratory bird species. The EU Commissioner for Enlargement has explicitly raised concerns over the opacity of the investment agreement.
All international agreements Montenegro signs should be in line with the national constitutional and legal framework, the EU acquis. The agreement on cooperation in the field of tourism and real estate development prima facie does not contain provisions detailed enough to be in conflict with the EU acquis.
The EU acquis communautaire, particularly in areas like public procurement, competition law, environmental protection and minority rights, forms a cornerstone of accession negotiations.
Montenegro and Albania have a challenging path ahead of them in terms of European integration.
But speed is not a characteristic of the accession process.
It's also an instrument of pressure. We have these possibilities. If you don't open the door for us sooner to the EU, we are going to go for other actors and they are going to bring their own money in the region.
And Montenegro's government has boldly pledged to wrap up negotiations by 2026 and become a full EU member by 2028.
If we want to fulfill your ambitious goals, closing still 25 chapters until the year of 26, we will have to work hard, and we will.
Local communities voiced their opposition when the deal surfaced in April.
This was organized by the Prime Minister without asking for consent from the local authorities in Ulcinj or without asking actually anything from the local NGOs and activists and business communities.
It is not a done deal, however. The president still hasn't signed the deal even though it got ratified for a second time. It is in his power to go to the Constitutional Court or to actually intervene and prevent the application of this law. Montenegro stands at a defining moment, caught between the rapid influx of foreign capital and the slower, rule-bound EU accession. For TVP World, I'm Aisha Badja.
An explosive protest took place in front of the Metropolitan Detention Center in Los Angeles for 2 nights now. Demonstrators have been out in the streets of LA expressing their opposition to immigration raids. Tensions are high as US President Donald Trump has signed a memorandum in response to the protests, deploying 2,000 National Guardsmen to address what he called the lawlessness. And the US Secretary of Defense, Pete Hegseth, took to social media to announce that the Pentagon was prepared to mobilize active duty troops in the area and that the Marines stationed nearby were already on high alert. The protests express opposition to one of the key points of Donald Trump's second term in office, a crackdown on immigration. In the Los Angeles area, a significant portion of the population is Hispanic and foreign-born. And that brings us to the end of this news bulletin, but stay tuned for that interview coming up with Natasha Vucicka. Bye-bye.